What's going on, guys? Yocom here. I might have actually outdone myself with this deck, and what that exactly means, might have outdone myself with stupidity. A lot of people at locals were puzzled, confused. I know some people thought it was an outright dumb idea. It's a combination of Traptrix and Kashtira. I was calling it my Trash Tricks deck. At first, I was just calling it my Trash deck. I think I've settled on Kashtira, but that's not funny enough, so maybe Trashtira. All right, kicking us off, 3 copies, Miramello. Now, great for getting the whole trap when she's normal summoned, but this is my biggest piece of back row removal. When she special summons, she gets that pop. For back row, for the field spell, absolutely fantastic. Next up, 2 copies of Mantis. She gets me another Traptrix in the hand when she's normal summoned. She also allows me to remove my own back row and then set new ones. It's come in handy occasionally, not a ton, but especially when your opponent targets, that's where it's good to go. 2 copies, Dianea. Great with the normal summon on getting another Traptrix from the graveyard in defense position, but also with that special summon, getting another Hole Trap. But you want to be careful on when you're choosing that Hole Trap, because it does go away at the end of your next end phase. Okay, 2 copies, Pudica, just great getting the field spell out, as well as special summoning, and when she's special summoned, then you get to banish one of your opponent's monsters. But again, gotta be careful when you do that, because they also get the opportunity to special summon any banished monster that they have. Okay, 1 copy of Arachnacampa. Now, Arachnacampa great. Protection against my back row the first time it'd be destroyed. Also with her ability, if I have a Traptrix, I can special summon her, but that does lock me into Traptrix monsters as well. Now, that's it for the Traptrix monsters. Going into 3 copies of Rise Heart. Rise Heart's great, can special summon her when I've already got a Kashtira monster. I can banish the top 3 cards of my opponent's deck face down, and her level changes to 7 after doing so. 3 copies of Fenrir. Now, who knows what's going to happen on that next ban list if Fenrir gets popped. A lot of people are speculating that he is going to get hit on the ban list in some capacity, kind of like Unicorn was at one point being semi-limited. But nonetheless, Fenrir getting another Kashtira monster, being able to pop, fantastic. 2 copies of Ogre. Now with this one, I kind of went back and forth. Do I want 3 copies of Ogre? Do I want 2? And I didn't want to have just 3 of each. I wanted to be a bit more strategic as possible with this one. Ogre's great because, you know, you get your Kashtira trap card, and so also really helps with leading right into 3 copies of Unicorn. Now with Unicorn, this is kind of what I was going back and forth with, was do I want to do like 3 Ogre, 2 Unicorn, 3 Unicorn, 2 Ogre, but I went with Unicorn because not so much for the banishing effect, but because it gets me my Kashtira spell card, and those are a lot more valuable to me than my Kashtira trap card. And 1 copy of Druid's Worm. Now, as we head into the non-archetypal cards, 1 copy of Bestial. He's come in handy with the banishing of the light or dark monster, depending on what I'm going up against. So, and then his quick effect as well is fantastic. Now, 1, 2, 3 copies of Ash Blossom. You'll see later in the side deck, my side deck's pretty limited. It just really depends on what I'm playing, what kind of removal I want, but I do have my 3 copies of Ash. I need 1 more copy of that alt art because that is just so much better than the original. And that's it for the monsters. So here we are heading into field spells. I have 1 copy of Pressured Planet, 1 copy of Garden. Both absolutely necessary for either archetype. Garden, you know, with getting that extra normal summon out, the ability to banish a monster on the field, to bring back a Traptrix monster. Again, with those Mirror Mellows, that is my main form of back row removal. I don't have Harpy's Feather Duster in here, though I probably should. My using Mirror Mellows and just really recycling them has been so much better as my removal here. Okay, 2 copies, Kashtira, Birth. So what is there really to say about Kashtira Birth? Great card, gets you out there, more of your Kashtiras from your graveyard that are banished, which they're constantly cycling through all of those, whether it's from being detached from Shangri-La or being banished from Rise Heart. So Kashtira Birth, absolutely necessary. I have 2 copies. And I should have, yep, here it is. Also 2 copies, Preparations. Preparations is great. It is, I feel like with Traptrix, having the slower speed of the trap card is, you know, really advantageous for that archetype. But when it comes to Kashtira, having this trap card, it's, I don't want to set it too early if I don't have any Kashtiras in my opening hands. I don't want to, you know, I just don't want to risk losing it. So it can be a little janky sometimes, but having the 2 copies is great. I might move it down to 1 because I do have Ogre to bring it out, but if it gets popped, it gets popped. I don't have any other options. Okay. Next with the 2 copies of Imperm. I was playing around with 3 copies. If I were to move Preparations down to 1, then I would probably move Imperm to 3. But so far, having 2 has done the job that it needs to do. Okay. 2 copies, Traptrix Whole Nightmare. Great trap card for the Traptrix, especially when I have like Rafflesia on the board and her ability to detach a card, her effect becomes any of my hole traps from the deck, you know, after, you know, sending it to the graveyard. So with this one, when a special summon monster uses its ability, that's where it triggers and it negates and destroys. One of the nastiest cards in the deck. I love it. Having 2 copies, just helps with kind of speeding things up. I had a lot of things like Whole Nightmare previously at 3 copies, but I feel like kind of taking away just 1 to make room for something else really helps out with the pace of everything. Okay. I got 1 copy of Deep Dark. Now, I just have the 1 copy, you know, when a level 5 or higher monster is summoned. This can also apply to your monsters as well. I haven't really found a need for that, but I know there's something out there where it would be viable, but I like having it. I don't want to draw it. I want to keep it in the deck for Rafflesia. Okay. 2 copies of Bottomless, easy. I did have more than 1 copy of Deep Dark, but I figured Bottomless was a bit more versatile, and so I wanted to keep those for the removal, for the banish. I wish it banished face down, because then, you know, that would fit a lot better with the with the Kashtira archetype of banishing face down, but it do be like that sometimes. 2 copies of Gravedigger's Trap Hole. Now, this card was really hard for me to go from 3 copies to 2 because it's probably my favorite Trap Hole. It negates, it doesn't destroy, but it does negate, and they get hit for 2,000 life points. So moving it down to 2 was a lot better because it made room for other things, especially not in a Traptrix Pure deck. Gotta make room for the other stuff one way or another, and I had to sacrifice the trap card that I love the most. And last in the main deck, 2 copies, Holitea. Another card that was really hard to go down to 2 copies with. So I would say when it comes to this deck, Holitea, Traptrix, Gravedigger's Trap Hole is my favorite cards. These 2 are huge staples in the way that I play this deck. So moving it down to 2 copies, but again, to make room for Kashtira was a big sacrifice. It was really hard to do, but it's great. Again, with Holitea, her graveyard ability, you can banish her, special summon a Traptrix monster in defense position. And we can all, already see who I am bringing back from the graveyard as much as possible, and that's Miramello. Miramello needs that pop. Also with Miramello, it's not a once per turn, so do with that information as you will. Okay, moving into the extra deck here, I've got 1 copy of SP. You gotta have an SP in there. Like I said in my previous deck profile video, I got SP right before the market hit and made it super crazy expensive. I'm super glad to have this card. And go ahead and make room over here. 1 copy, Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller, I think, is super important to have right now, especially with the way the current meta is going. I mean, not even just with this current meta, I think it's more important now, but with Abyss Dweller being able to detach a card and your opponent can't do anything with their graveyard, especially with what's going on right now, but still super versatile. I wanted to move this card into my deck a long time ago, even with my Traptrix Pure deck. Just couldn't make room for it, and I'm glad that it's here now. It's been super handy. Okay, 2 copies, Rafflesia. She's great. One thing that I always forgot learning the deck was not only does she protect my Traptrix against, card effects, they have to target her first, and they have to target, but my other Traptrix monsters are protected against being destroyed from battle. I still take damage, but she does a lot of what the field spell Traptrix Garden does. So if I have my Kashtira field spell out, well then she still protects just like Garden does. 1 copy of Ping. Now, that one was tricky. I used Ping a lot, but with the way that I play this deck now, I don't rely as heavily on her using that ability that when you banish a card, that it becomes material for her. Rafflesia really has just taken the spotlight in my extra deck as far as my Traptrix cards go. Now, Baromet, this guy, when I first came across this card, I was playing up against also a Traptrix deck in Master Duel. They use this card and I'm like, what the heck is that? I mean, it's a cool little goat sheep thing. He's awesome. So with him, you can detach a material and take a trap from your graveyard, put it at the bottom of your deck, which with the way the deck searches, it doesn't matter where in the deck it is, even if it's at the bottom. And then after you do that, you get to draw a card. Super powerful, great card, generic 2+ level 4 monsters to make him. Now, Red Eyes, Flare Dragon, great. When I first got this card, I really wanted to use it, but I don't play Red Eyes, and the decks that I play are mostly level 4s. And so being able to have him, especially with that ability where, your opponent is taking that 500 point hit, it really adds up. It stays a strong body on the field. Great versatile card. Baron de Fleur. Now, this is a brand new pick for the deck, and I haven't really tested out my plan as much as I would like to, but this is the current deck that I'm running right now. So you're probably wondering how I have a synchro card in this deck, and that's where my Ash Blossoms come into play. I do not have a problem using Ash as the tuner that she is and not just the hand trap. You know, if in my opening hand I have some Traptrix monsters, I have a Kashtira of some sort, you know, because they're all level 7, even Rise Heart with that ability. If I have Ash and Kashtira and Traptrix, you know, those 3 cards are super easy to open up with, especially with the quantities that they're in. Then I can tune her off and bring out Baron. This card has been the bane of my existence since playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I figured it was about time that I tried it out. 1 copy of Zeus, pretty standard. Everybody knows. Field wipe, so if I have like ping on the board and I attack immediately, he's a good quick effect to wipe the board, you know, my self-destruct button, if you will. Okay, wrapping up the extra deck here. 3 copies of Traptrix Sarah. I thought about going to 2 copies, but I just couldn't do that. The 3, she gets popped a lot because of how strong she is. You know, when a Traptrix monster uses their ability, then I get to set a whole trap card. When a normal trap is activated on my field or my opponent's field, then I get to special summon a Traptrix monster onto the field. Again, Miramello from the deck being that pop. So, you know, and then when she, you know, if I have 1 or 2 Miramellos in the graveyard, well, then I special summon a Dionea who I have in the deck, and using, you know, Dionea's ability to get another trap hole, and, you know, and that cycle just keeps going. So I didn't want to run the risk of turn, you know, 3 or 4, losing 1 or 2 of those. I've tried running 2 copies in the past, and I didn't like the positions that it really put me in. So wrapping it up here, 1 copy, Adipus. I can negate cards on my opponent's board up to the number of plants and insects monsters. A lot of the times it's just 1 that I need. And then if I do have a whole trap card in my graveyard, I can banish that and destroy that card. And as long as I have a whole trap in my deck or in my graveyard, then all my Traptrix monsters get an extra 1,000 attack bonus, which her at 18 taking it to 28, especially if I got ping on the board, it is nasty. And last but not least, 2 copies of Shangri-La. This card was one of the most difficult for me to learn just by remembering everything that it does. A lot of these Kashtira cards really, it's taken a lot for me to learn, especially if I play it on, you know, Master Duel, Dueling Nexus, what have you. And I'm very grateful that it has the, you know, the training wheels to really remind me, hey, do you want to activate this effect or this effect? And so going through that numerous times and just really remembering what they all do was a big learning curve for me, and I feel like has really advanced me in the way that I play Yu-Gi-Oh! And just knowing the game, knowing the deck that I play, and just being better. So that's it for my extra deck as well. Now let's move to the side deck. Side deck, as you guys remember from my other deck profile, I don't really use it a whole lot. Now, some of you guys did point out, don't just have 1 copy of a lot of cards that you think you want to see, because that's not gonna, it's just not going to pop up in the game. And so I took that advice to heart. And for my side deck here, I'm mostly just focused on what type of hand traps do I want to have, depending on the opponent that I'm facing. But I did make sure, essentially, it was going to be my Ash replacement in the way that I do the side deck. But I did also want to make sure that there were tuners, except for, first off, 2 copies, Droll and Lockbird. Everybody loves him. He's super great for... I don't know if he's super great as much right now as the meta currently stands, because a lot of people are summoning to the field from the deck, not so much adding, you know, drawing from the deck to their hand. So it's going to be a little bit more situational, but I dig him. Now, except for one copy of Ghost Mourner. I just had the one because that's all I have right now, and I did want to have essentially the Ghost Girls as my side deck depending on the situation that I'm in. So once I get more copies of Ghost Mourner, then this is going to move up to 3 copies as well as my favorite 3 copies, Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. Now, I do have this card as a QCR, but I'm too afraid to play with those cards. So I don't know, maybe I'll just keep it for the collection, or maybe sell it off to somebody who also loves this card and wants to actually play with them, but I am too afraid to play with QCRs. And of course, 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. So the main thing was essentially taking out Ash Blossom, depending on the opponent that I have, replacing it with one of them, and still maintaining that tuner, so that way I still have the ability to go into Baron if I so chose to. And that's the deck. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure, like, subscribe, all the things in the description. I've got the social media links as well. I would love for your support on following me there if you're in those. But also, I don't hold back anything in the comment section. If you think that this is just the dumbest thing ever and it shouldn't exist, let me know. If you think that there's anything I should add, take away, or even if you think, hey, you know what? I see what you're going with here. Traptrix is not the plan. Try out this archetype instead. Again, I want to build this community. I want to have this conversation with you guys. Once I get that Discord server up and running and I stop sitting on my hands and creating it, then there might be a link in the description. I don't know. But I want to have that conversation with you guys and really continue to build this community. Oh, also, one of the cards that I was wanting to add, but I just don't have it. It's the other trap hole. I think it's like Deep Space, something or other, where it's, if a monster is special summoned from the extra deck, you can send it back, but then you also take 1,000 points of damage. That card's been pretty helpful as well. Just having these really versatile trap cards and these whole trap cards for the Traptrix has been really just fun, because my opponent never knows what I'm going to throw out next. It's one thing if they can imagine I'm just going to have 3 copies of Bottomless and 3 copies of regular Trap Hole or whatever the case is, but that it's something different every time. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Want to continue to build this community. And with that, I end my turn.